Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 64 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're unleashing the power of your Raspberry Pi Pico W. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at SunFounder. SunFounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Kepler kit for Raspberry Pi Pico W. Hopefully most of you guys already have your gear. If you don't, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon. You can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot easier if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. Now, in the last few lessons, we've been talking about modular programming, where we start organizing our programs more logically into logical chunks or logical blocks. The first way we did that was by writing functions, and then we took it to the next level last week when I taught you how to do object-oriented programs using classes and methods. Now, I demonstrated that with this hypothetical concept of a rectangle. So we had a rectangle class, and then we could create individual rectangle objects, and we could interact with those rectangular objects through our rectangle class, okay? Now, this is something that it takes a little while to get completely comfortable with. Hopefully you understood it last week, but I thought it would be useful if we had a second lesson and a second example. And this time, instead of having the arbitrary concept of a rectangle, we would create classes around physical objects, and maybe that would help you understand it even better. I am convinced by the end of this lesson, you should really understand this concept of object-oriented programming using classes and methods. Okay, so what I will do is I'll sort of show you the circuit that we're going to be doing. I will get out of your way. I will have a sip of coffee. And you can see we have a very simple circuit where we have a green LED and a red LED. The red LED is connected to GPIO pin 15, and the green LED is connected to GPIO 14. And then the short leg of the LED we have connected through the 330 ohm resistor to our ground rail, and same red LED through 330 ohms to the ground rail. So it's a pretty simple circuit that we are going to hook up here. Now, what is the general class of objects that we're going to be dealing with? It's LED. Now, that is the class. The class is going to be LED. What is the object that I'm going to have? I'm going to create a red LED, and I'm going to create a green LED. The red LED is an object under the class LED, and the other LED is also under the class LED. So you see, I have this class that is called LED, and then I'm going to create LED objects under it. Hopefully this will make a lot more sense as we go through it, but let's go on over here. Let's fire up Bonnie and let's get started. Let's get started by defining our class. Okay, what is the class of objects that I want to create? Well, I'm dealing with LEDs, so I will call it LEDs. What do we need to do inside of our class? We have a special method, the init method, that is run when you create an object under this class. And so I need to define that method. It is underscore, double underscore, that is, init, and then double underscore again. What do we always need to pass itself? That'll be the name of the individual objects that we create, and then LED pin, because each LED object that we create under this class will have its own individual unique pin number. Now, what do we need to do? Okay, we need to set up the LED in the init. We need to set up the LED in the init? Well, we're going to have to define it as an input or an output. We're going to have to do all of that sort of stuff. So we're going to need to from machine import pin. Now maybe you could do this outside the class up at the top of the program, but then if you use this class, it wouldn't be standalone working. So I want it standalone working, so I'm going to import the libraries that I need inside of the class, and I'm going to do that here inside of the init. So when I create an LED object, it'll come up, it'll run init, and then it's going to import the pin method from machine. Now I'm going to say self.pin number is equal to LED pin. So when I create an object, a particular LED object, I'm going to pass it what pin number that LED is connected to, and then I'm going to set that to something the whole class will understand. I'll put this LED pin inside of the variable self.pin number. So what would this be? Well, if red pin is connected to pin 15, then red pin.pin number would be LED pin. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, what else do I need to do? Now I need to actually say whether that pin is an input or an output. So I'm going to say self, and now I've got to give this some sort of name because I can't just keep calling it red LED. I've got to give it under that some sort of name. So I'm going to call it self.obj. You could call it whatever you want, okay, but I'm going to call it obj. And that's equal to, we're going to do our pin mode, right? So it's going to be pin, and I imported pin from machine, so it'll know what that is. And then what do I want? I want self.pin number, and then this is a what? It is a pin dot out, like that. Okay, I have set up that LED now. I have set up that LED object. Now what do I want to do? I want to put a useful method in here where I can do something with the LED. What would I want to do with the LED? Maybe I would want to blink it. So I'm going to say define a method, blink, and then in order to blink it, what am I going to need? I'm going to need a self. Okay, so you always keep track of who you are. Okay, self might be red LED, self might be green LED, but you're going to do self, and then how many times do you want to blink? Num blink, and then what do you need? You need a delay time, like that. All right, now inside of this method, I am going to need time. Okay, I'm going to need to put delays in, so I better import time. Okay, now I'm going to do my blinking inside of this blink method. So for I in range, okay, we're going to start at 0 and we're going to go to num blink like that. Now, why didn't I make like a self dot this or self dot that on num blink? Because the number of blinks is not a parameter of the LED. It's something I pass it every time I call that LED, but it's not a part of the LED object. It is a parameter when I am working with that object. So that's why I don't need to do all of that self business there. So for I in range from 0 to num blink, what do I want to do? Well, I want to blink it. Okay. Now I know it's going to be a dot value of 1. Well, what dot value of 1? Well, it's going to be red LED, green LED, whatever, the name of the object, which is self dot, and I set it up calling it what? OBJ. So self dot OBJ is the way I'm going to enter it. Self dot OBJ has a value of 1. Then a time dot sleep of delay time, and then a self.obj.value of 0. So I'm going to turn it off. Time.sleep of delay time, like that. Okay. So when I create my LED object, I would just say LED, or I would say like red LED is equal to LED, the class, and then I would pass it the number, the pin number. Okay, when I want to interact with it, I would call the object, say red LED, and then I would pass it num blink and delay time. Hopefully that makes sense, but let's move on. So I've created my class. Now I just need to come in and I need to write my program. So we got to tell it what this is outside the class, right? I have finished the class and I've come back unindented all the way to the left. And now red pin was what? That was 15. Green pin, that was 14. And then let's say my red blinks. How many times do I want to blink red? Let's say I want to blink it 5 times. And then the red delay is equal to 0.5. Okay. Now I'm going to have green blinks. And that is going to be, I want to blink the green one 10 times. And then green delay is equal to 0.1. These are just my parameters that I want to blink. Now I need to create my LED objects. I'm going to call this physical object, this red LED physical object, I'm going to call it red LED. Now that is an object that is going to be created in the class what? LED. And what does it need to know? It needs to know the pin number, red pin. So when I say red LED is equal to LED, it runs up to this class, it does the init, it gets the LED pin number, and then it sets the self.pin number to LED pin, and then it does the pin mode, self.obj, could have called that anything, is equal to pin, self.pin number, which we set up here, and then we make that an output pin. Okay, so now I have created the red LED object of class LED. Now green LED is going to be equal to LED of what? Green pin. Now if I run this, it should set it up, but it's really not going to do anything because I've just set up the object machine. What is that? Okay. What is that? From machine import pin. Why is it not like that? Line 3. That one scared me badly. That scared me bigly. But what is the problem? Why did it do that? Why did it give me that problem? You see down here, I was set on local Python and I hadn't connected. Okay, now that I connected, it will be able to import. Wow, I thought that it was some class problem that I didn't understand, but okay, now it's going to run and boom. It's set up those two objects, the green LED and the red LED, it's ready to go, but I didn't tell it to do anything. I just set it up. So now that those things are set up, what I could do is I could create my while loop. While true, when is true, true, true is always true. And I could say red LED, and then what do I want to do? I want to dot blink. And then I want red blinks, that many blinks, and then red delay, like that. Now, why did I just do red blinks? Because I created the red LED object. It came up here. It ran the init, so it's all ready to go. Now what do? The object is red LED, and now what I just do is I call the method, which is blink. It is not .object.blink. No. That is all taken care of inside. From the outside world, all I do is call this method. How do I call the method? It is the object dot the method with the parameters. And now what am I going to do? Green LED dot blink, and then here green blinks, comma, green delay. Is this making more sense? This is the second time you've seen this. hopefully this is making more sense. Let's run this thing. All eyes on the LED. Let's run it. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa, that didn't work. Green delay. What is that? Greed delay. Green will work better. Okay, all eyes on the LEDs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, do you see how that works? Boom. Okay, so you see now down in this program, we can just do a red LED blink or a green LED blink. So you see, we're not doing any calculations up here in the class. We're not doing any calculations. We're just setting up a physical object, and we are interacting with this physical object through the class LED. And look how clean our code is down here. Now, red LED.blink, obvious what that is doing. Green LED.blink, obvious that's what it's doing. And now you pass it green blinks and you pass it green delay. All right. See how much sense that makes? Hopefully this helps you understand a little bit better how to do object-oriented programming. I've given you 2 examples now, and the only thing that I could see that you could be a little bit confused about is that this self is red LED, right? This self is red LED, but I've got to give it some name here. Okay, this self, you know what I could call this is I could call it self.object my pen or something like that. Okay, and in that case, then I would set this to my pen. But you've got to give this a name here, OBJ. And you know, if I could do something besides blink, I could then have a different object and I could do something different with it. Okay, so you see, you could have all types of different methods inside of this overall class. All right, guys, I hope this makes sense. Give me some feedback. Were you still confused after lesson number 63? And if you were, did lesson 64 kind of help you understand how these things work a little bit better? I hope it does, because I really had a lot of trouble. I mean, I just got blown away when I first started doing this, because they just jumped in with all this self stuff, and it never really made sense to me. So hopefully seeing these 2 lessons, it makes a little more sense to you. So I've taught you 2 times on this, and so this is your homework assignment. Sort of like we did with the LED, I want you to create a servo object, a class for servos, a class not for LEDs, but a class for servos. And this you're going to have to do a little bit more work, but what I want is I want to create a method where, you know, I create a servo object, you know, that's going to be inside of a class. I'm going to have the class of servo, and then I'm going to create a servo object, which could be like my blue servo. That could be my servo object. And then I want to interact with this just by saying something like blue servo .pos for position, blue servo.pos, and then I want to give it a number from 0 to 180. So when I want to work with this servo, all I've got to do is I've just got to say blue servo.pos and then pass it the angle. Now, if you remember in MicroPython and the Raspberry Pi Pico, the way we were working with the servo before, we were setting up the PWM, and then we were calculating these values, and we were doing all of that stuff. And then every time that you wanted to use the servo to a position, you had to go through all those calculations. I want all that heavy lifting to be done up in the class and in the method. And then down in the using of it, it's just something like my servo or blue servo.pos, and then you pass it the angle you want. Now, you probably don't remember how we set up this because it was a number of lessons ago. So if you want to review how you just work with the servo, you can go back and look at lesson number 36 again, and I show you how to set up the PWM pins. I show you how to calculate an angle based on the timing and all of that sort of stuff. So you can see all of that in lesson number 36. But then you take that, and then what you do is you use it to create a class where you never have to think about all that nonsense again. You just load in your class, and then you can interact with the servo very easily. Does that make sense? Because this is really a perfect example of where you would want to do a class, because you don't want to have to go back and watch lesson number 36 every single time you want to use a servo, and you're probably not going to remember 6 months from now what you learned in lesson number 36. So if you don't remember lesson number 36, go back and review that, and then set up your class that allows you to easily and simply work with a servo. And then from now on, anytime we're going to work with a servo using the Raspberry Pi Pico W, we'll go in and we'll load that class up. I hope that makes sense. Guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking these classes as I am making them. Want to give a shout out to you guys who are standing with me on Patreon. Your support and encouragement on Patreon is what keeps these great lessons coming. You can also help me by giving me a thumbs up. Helps me with the old YouTube juice if you will leave a comment down below. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and when you do, ring that bell so you'll get notifications when future lessons drop. And as always, share this video with other people, because the world needs more people doing engineering and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.